Thanks for joining us. First off, a bit of housekeeping. Michelle and Ronnie have beat me to it. So if you've got any technical issues, use the chat function. One of the lovely team from GPS are monitoring that, so they'll be able to help us out with anything in there. If you've got any questions for the panel, can you put them in the Q&A section rather than the chat, because I'm going to keep an eye on the Q&A and let Oksana from GPS look at the chat for us. So moving on, if everyone's comfortable with that, I'll start by introducing the panel. So we're joined today by three of our mentors. So we've got Lisa Grahame, who's the Chief Risk and Compliance Officer from GPS, who have very kindly given us access to this remote platform today, which looks like a good tool. We've got Carol Johnson, who's the IT Director for Telegraph Media Group and the founder of Women in Tech, Not Just Code, and Beverley D'Ordsaneo, who is a fantastic Program Director who's most recently worked with brands like Refinitiv and American Express. And joining them today, we've got their respective mentees who they've been connected to for over 12 months in the program. So they've got some real actual experience of the program that they can share with us. So the mentees from their relationships are Hayley Beney, who's a test practice manager from Close Brothers, Patricia Campbell, also from Close Brothers, who's a lead BA, and Aaliah Haq, who is a transformation program manager from Transport for London. So like I said, they'll be sharing some best practice and some of their experience from the last 12 months. And we've also got Rory Fleming with us, who is one of the chaps behind MentorXchange, and he'll be telling us how to get best value out of the platform. And then lastly, myself, who hopefully you all know, but just for those that don't, so Kevin Dainty, work in the technology recruitment division of Reed, been in the business for 10 years, heading up our senior appointments arm and dealing with client relationships. And that's kind of the thing that's led me down the path of setting up this program. So working as a tech recruiter, we're absolutely reliant on the quality and the breadth of the tech talent market. And rather than being a drain on that and constantly taking from it, we think it's a social responsibility of ours to make sure that we're giving back and helping to develop those people that are in that talent pool. So it's our view that one of the best ways outside of formal mentoring and formal training that you get from your employer, that mentoring is one of those best ways to help develop those people within that talent pool. And my definition of a mentor is somebody that's there to give you the benefit of their experience, to support and encourage your learning in order that you can maximize your potential, develop skills, improve your performance, and just become the person you want to be and achieve what you want to achieve. And the one thing I've got to say is we're only in a position to be able to facilitate this program because of the fantastic people like all you guys that have joined us today, the speakers and the attendees. So thank you all. And the power of that network is unbelievable, really. So it's actually through that network that I got connected to Rory in the first place. So a fantastic person from Unilever introduced us. And if it wasn't for that introduction, we wouldn't be here today. We wouldn't have the ability to scale this program the way we have and have so many members. So that's why I'm really doing it. That's why I'm passionate about it. I think it'd be great to hear from Rory just to understand a little bit more about why MentorXchange decided to partner with us on this journey and some of the other stuff that you guys are involved in.
Thank you, Kevin. Right, good afternoon. Thank you, everyone, for joining, and thank you for joining this fantastic initiative. Finding a mentor, or indeed mentoring an individual, has never been more important than it is today. We started MentorXchange with the mission to provide equal access opportunities to all members of a network. And when we deploy an instance of our platform to large corporates, SME networks, charities, or an initiative built around a common purpose, like Kevin's done here with Reed, the most important thing that we want to provide is end value to you, the participants. Whether you're a mentee looking to improve skills or your outcomes, or you're a mentor helping others achieve their aspirations, as this initiative develops over hopefully some time, many of you will hopefully become both mentees and mentors, because we strongly believe that with any network, there's an opportunity for an individual to learn and develop. And similarly, we hope to develop individuals so that they have the capability to share and contribute in a meaningful way. With the Reed platform, what we want to offer is access to people, resources, and content. And we want you to be able to explore opportunities that you might otherwise not have been able to do and positively impact the outcomes of the participants of the program. So this initiative will develop over time. The platform will develop over time, like any good mentoring relationship should. So it's building the understanding of over who you are and what you're looking to achieve. So with time, we hope we can find you the best matches based on your individual learning preferences. And hopefully we can supplement the relationships you form over the network with valuable content that will help you throughout your professional career. So we're building out, over this time, we'll build out content verticals and skills and topics that will hopefully help you achieve your goals. And we want to highlight your development progress, your achievements, and the endorsements you give each other, both within the platform and hopefully then externally to the wider network, to your current employers, future employers, and network as a whole. So that's what we're looking to hopefully achieve with MentorXchange here with this fantastic initiative.
Awesome. Thanks, Rory. Cheers for that. So moving on to the mentees from the panel, we wanted this session really to be led by the mentees because we strongly believe that any successful mentor relationship should be led by the mentees. A key step in that is for them to identify, what they want to get out of the relationship, so they can then help the mentors guide them down that path. So I think it'd be great to hear from the 3 existing mentees as to, how you went about identifying what skills are important to you, and any advice you'd give to people that are at that stage now, looking to enter the program. So starting with you, Hayley, please let us know.
Yeah. Sure. I from my perspective, you can hear me all right? Just checking sound check. Yeah. From my perspective, I think firstly, I was delighted to be asked. I was my manager at Close Brothers, and the HR department got in touch with me and asked me if I'd be interested in taking part in this scheme, and I saw it as an opportunity to learn and develop some skills and grab the opportunity with both hands. At that point in time, I was actually facing some personal challenges and thought perhaps the timing isn't right, but it was too good an opportunity to turn down. But because of that, my sort of focus was I was struggling to work out what I wanted from the scheme. And one of the things I liked about it is it's quite flexible like that. So I'd also recently, about a year before, been promoted. So I hadn't sort of mapped out a career path. I didn't have any goals or anything like that. So that's actually what I looked for, was a mentor that could guide me in sort of career development and think about a sort of longer term, and also help me in my day-to-day role and look at some challenges that potentially I was facing and making sure I was doing the right job as I'd been promoted. When I sort of looked at skills, I was looking for a mentor that could specifically, I looked back over my application form. I appreciate this is before the current system was put in place, but I was looking at things like improving skills in current role was one option, and career choice, direction and development, to just try and help me with those particular skills. And I looked for a mentor that had leadership, strategic thinking, planning and strong influencing and negotiating skills.
Excellent. I was going to jump to Patricia. I'm not sure if she's there. I can't see her camera, so I'll skip to Aaliah. And if Patricia is in the presenter mode, yes, turn the camera on. That'd be fantastic. So Aaliah, do you want to fire away, mate? It could be good to understand, why you got involved in the program and how you went about identifying the skills you were looking to develop.
Sure, thanks. Hi, everyone. So for me, I'd often given thought about the fact that I needed a mentor, but I was always too busy at work and too busy at home with 2 young children to really give it any serious thought and to do anything really about it. And then towards the middle end of 2019, I heard about Kevin's networking initiative and thought about how I could get in on that, because that sounded really positive and really, really exciting opportunity. At that point, I was also at a professional crossroads and conscious that I needed to really do some planning around the next stage of my career. At that point, I'd been in my current company for 13 years, which is so much more longer than I ever thought I would be anywhere. And I had just switched roles internally. So I really had that recognition that I needed some independent guidance on my current status and future career plans. So for me, what I wanted to get out of mentoring was some career advice, some building of my own confidence, to get myself through this new position that I got, and ultimately whether to leave my current company and go contracting. At that time, there wasn't any online system as there is now, so I filled an enrollment form which I sent to Kevin, and I asked him to match me with someone with project and program management and strategic thinking, planning and leadership skills. And a very short time later, thanks to Kevin's efficiency, he matched me with Bev, and we arranged to meet.
Awesome. Thanks, Aaliah. And Patricia, same question to you, really. What made you want to join the program, and how did you go about identifying the skills that you wanted support with?
Well, when I joined Close Brothers and the opportunity to be a mentee came up, I was quite new into my career as a team leader. I was very much aware that I was new and I didn't know what I didn't know. So getting a mentor for me was quite important, just to help me become a really good manager. I didn't want to be the type of manager that I hated, in the past. Not that I had many that I hated. So I really wanted somebody that had excellent people skills, that was also a boss, in terms of, someone that was in lead of their field, someone that could inspire me, guide me, and not be too sort of do and tell, but just really get me to uncover what I really know. So Kevin, again, you were fantastic at doing that. So when I heard about the scheme, it was literally my manager sort of said, there's this mentoring scheme, but you have to apply like by 5 o'clock on that particular day. It was like 3:30, and the form had lots of stuff in it about goals and objectives. So in a way, it was good that I didn't have too much time to overthink it. I just knew that I wanted to be a better leader and a better manager, and to be able to sort of inspire those that I'm fortunate enough to manage, and to also get out of my own way. So match made in heaven with Carol.
Awesome, thanks, Patricia. So Rory, obviously, all our new members are going to be going through that journey of identifying what skills they're going to want, but then there's still a fairly big leap to getting to the point where they feel comfortable approaching a mentor. What would your advice be in terms of using the platform to help them, make that transition from entering the program to connecting with somebody?
Yes, good question. It really comes down to when it comes to onboarding, the most important thing is about filling the amount of information in. I know it's a little bit of an onerous task for both mentees and mentors, but I can't stress the importance of it. Firstly, having a look at other people's profiles, seeing what they do, seeing what they're interested in, or helping others and contributing to the network. There are articles on the skills that we connect people over through the platform. And the most important element here is highlighting, identifying the skills that you want to improve, and then the skills that, if you're a mentor, that you want to help others on the network with. Don't worry too much about the competency level. That will come out in time over the course of the platform, but then we can start looking at connecting you with the right mentor and suggesting mentors, and we'll work through those workflows in later on stage. Yeah,
and I think the thing to add there is, if anybody is struggling with that stage of it, we're still here to lend a helping hand. So, the same feedback mechanisms, my email address, the leadership practice inbox, get in touch with us, and we can support that if you are struggling. So, assuming that, we've got people on the platform, they've reached out, they've found something, they've connected. For me, I think the next thing is preparing for that first session. That can be quite daunting for people that haven't done mentoring before. So it'd be really good from both mentees and mentors' perspective, to get your respective view of how you, firstly, how you prepared for the session, and then secondly, would you do anything differently the second time around, and was there any advice that you'd give to other people that are preparing for the session? So I'll go the same order we went last time. So Hayley, can you give us an overview of what it was like for you going into that first session with Bev?
Yep. So my first session, it wasn't with Bev or Lisa. In fact, I had a previous mentor as well. But for both sessions, those first sessions, I prepared by initially. I looked back at my application form, because it had been some time since I submitted my form before the first session, and I just wanted to check on what I'd written, make sure it was still valid and what I'd said I was looking for. I actually looked through my own CV so that I could concisely summarize my career. In that introduction, I sort of pulled together a kind of agenda of how I might go, but I also wasn't sure if that's how it would go. But in my head, I kind of thought there would be a kind of intro. We'd both introduce ourselves, talk about our experiences, and then obviously move on to what was I hoping for. And then I think the real key point is the outcome. Is by the end of it, you kind of want a bit of validation of, can this person help you with what you're looking for? Is it, are you aligned, and can you move forward? What and then the ground rules about, how frequently are you going to meet, and those kind of things. I also prepared questions, what I wanted to ask, and in that agenda, I made sure that I had time to ask those questions and give across the points that I wanted to say. Would I do anything differently? I don't think so. I think I'd probably follow that approach. I definitely found that when I joined, particularly the first session, I with the first mentor, I kind of expected to almost be led by them, having not participated in a session before. I thought, okay, I'll be guided by them, but I've also wanted to make sure that I got my questions answered during that session.
Excellent, thanks. Aaliah, who is Bev's actual mentee, sorry there, guys. Anything different for you? Did you take a different approach to preparing for that meeting? And again, would you do anything differently based on that experience?
Yeah, it was quite similar for me, actually, to Hayley. So Bev and I scheduled our first meeting in Canary Wharf, and luckily for us, we weren't in lockdown at that point, so we were able to do that face-to-face. In preparation for that first session, I'd also looked at my enrolment form again, and then I set myself an agenda for the first meeting, focusing on 3 main areas, which were my experience based on my CV, where I saw myself over the next 12 months, and my aspirations for the next 3 to 5 years. Bev was really friendly and welcoming when we met, so that encouraged me to ask lots of questions. And I found out that Bev's experience was very similar to my own. And so at the end of the meeting, we agreed that we were a good fit and that we were happy to carry on. After the first meeting, I looked at my CV again to see if I could tighten it up and identify any other further opportunities. And I think in hindsight, I wouldn't do anything differently, because I think that first meeting went quite well. I think what we could have done, though, and this is probably more down to me, was that we didn't schedule another face-to-face meeting soon after. So in hindsight, actually, I would say get another meeting in the diary as soon as you're able to. The reason that personally I didn't was because I was busy in my new role. But looking back on that, it was perhaps a missed opportunity to get some more face-to-face sessions in with Bev, because we went into lockdown soon after that.
Okay, thanks, Aaliah. Patricia, is anything else to add to that? You obviously get the short straw of going last, sorry.
Can you hear me? No.
Yeah, I can just hear you now, thank you.
Brilliant. So first thing I actually did was to make sure I knew what Carol looked like, because before that I hadn't seen her or anything. So I did a bit of stalking on LinkedIn to make sure that when we met, I was going to approach the right person. So Carol and I met up in a lovely bar in Wimbledon, and I had gone through my objectives. I told them, I looked at the enrolment form, but I wanted to leave it to be quite organic. So I knew that I was going to talk about what I do, my experience, and I was sort of focused on what I thought was my problem area, but it was really relaxed. It was really organic. We had, good introductions, and picking up on what Aaliah said, we definitely had booked the next session before we had left. So for me, that first session, even though I was really, really nervous, it was lovely. It was lovely. I got exactly what I needed from it.
Lovely, thanks, Patricia. So same question to the mentors, really. Do you guys think there is certain things that other mentors coming into the program should be thinking about prior to their first meeting with their mentees? And Lisa, how did you prepare when you first met Hayley? Oh, I think you're still on mute there, mate, sorry. Yeah.
Perfect. So I think for me, coming into it from a mentoring perspective, it's a conversation. It's important to remember it's a conversation. You're getting to know one another. So, and for the mentee, it is in some respects slightly more anxious. And so the role of a mentor is to create that relaxed environment and ease of conversation very quickly. And so the mentor, in terms of preparation, it's limited, because your role in that first conversation is a lot of listening and responding and learning. So you have to, I went into it with an approach of, yes, they're introducing me, but the focus of those sessions is for me and Hayley is Hayley. It's we have conversation about me, but from a context perspective, in terms of examples and scenarios. But the focus is and should be Hayley, in terms of me listening and taking that through and working it through. And it's actually quite, one thing to think about from mentor perspective. It's a nice time to put aside you and actually spend that one-on-one dedicated time focusing on somebody else. It's kind of, the prep for me was actually creating the space and the clear space in my diary to, we are doing it during lockdown. Hayley and I've only done this during lockdown. So it was having the space to clear my mind before going into the conversation. So, and that, in face-to-face time would be walking or going to a location. So sort of about 10 minutes before, just to kind of clear the decks, get a cup of tea, that kind of thing, is what I did. But it's very limited. It's a lot, focus is listening and learning in that first session.
Excellent. Thanks, Lisa. Bev, did you take a similar approach?
Yes, thanks, Kevin. I was a bit like Patricia, actually. I did a stalking on LinkedIn. I think really because it's interesting to understand the background of the mentee, where they've been, what their experience is, and then very similar to Lisa, it's about making that environment comfortable. We the day it was a cup of tea, rather than going out after work, and it was a relaxed atmosphere. I am not someone that goes in very much goals, it's not the rigid side. I'm much more around the flexible, the listening to which way Aaliah wanted to take the direction of the conversation. And as Lisa said, it's listening, it's being able to provide your own skill set and experience. But for that first meeting, we hit it off really well quickly, and it felt right, which worked.
Perfect. Thanks, Bev. And then, Carol, same question to you, mate. How did you prepare for meeting Patricia for the first time?
All of the above. Yeah, I mean, definitely when you're meeting somebody in a bar, you want to know who you're meeting, otherwise it's a bit strange and a bit like a blind date otherwise. But I think, yeah, I agree with everything that's been said so far. And one of the things that sort of helped me by doing a little bit of research, but also looking at what objectives Patricia was setting, was looking back at my own career and my own experiences so I could draw on those when they came up in conversations, but also reminding myself how I felt about things in those situations so that I could really use that as a way of opening up channels to, really create that sort of empathy, to be able to showcase that actually what the mentee is going through is perfectly normal. These happen to other people as well. And I think that was an important way of really trying to break the ice. The mentees usually are coming with a problem that needs to be solved, and my job isn't to solve it for them, it's to help them solve it for themselves. So what was interesting is as we were having some of the conversations and looking at those objectives, it changed along the way when we realized what was on the paper wasn't really necessarily the actual outcome they were looking for. And in Patricia's case, we were working through, and the job is always to listen. And then to try and remember as you're listening, the little hooks you need to come back to rather than sort of interrupting and jumping in, and explore avenues. There's a lot of questioning that goes on, but doing it in a way that is not like an interview. It's about, I try and look at it from maybe the other person, not necessarily the mentee side, but the challenge that they're facing from their point of view, and go, how would you feel? What does it look like? Have you thought about this? So you're exploring it rather than coming in with the answer. I think that's really important.
Excellent. Thank you, Carol. One of the questions we often get asked by people looking to join the program is, okay, what do I do? How do you want me to manage the relationship? How do you want me to facilitate these conversations? And something that we're very mindful of is that mentoring is a really personal thing. We've all got our own unique time constraints, so we don't want to mandate any specific structure as to how the relationships carry on. But I think it'd be really beneficial for new people coming into the program that are about to start their mentor relationships to understand how each of you pairs now, continued that relationship from that first meeting through to now month 12 to 18 where we are now. What kind of channels you use to communicate and how often and how frequently you did those kind of things. So starting again with Hayley and Lisa, if we can.
Yeah, sure. So if I reflect over, as I mentioned, I've had 2 mentoring partnerships. The first one, reflecting on that, didn't work out. I had an initial face-to-face meeting, which was absolutely fine. And after that session, actually slightly different to what the other guys have said, I did actually schedule a follow-up session for a month later. And then unfortunately it was postponed and rescheduled, and that repeatedly happened. And after 6 months of waiting, I then reached out to Kevin, and I'm glad I did, because obviously I then have now moved into a very successful mentoring relationship with Lisa. And I think all I would say is, in hindsight, is maybe I should have reached out sooner to Kevin to resolve the issues I was facing. So being partnered with Lisa, she's a fantastic mentor, and the things that have worked well for me, I mean, the sort of, obviously we've, as she's mentioned, we've been 100% during lockdown, so we have sessions usually monthly via a Zoom call, a Teams call, Zoom call, can't remember, one of the applications that we use to connect, all online, generally about an hour and a half session once a month. Lisa's pretty flexible. She doesn't shut me off after an hour and a half, and it's fairly late, 5 o'clock time, 5:30 that we start, sort of thing. So it's eating into her evening. I'm very mindful of that. She has mentioned that I could, if needed, reach out to her with ad hoc requests via email, and she's open to that. I don't like to intrude, but I know I could if I wanted to. One of the things that she mentioned about that sort of when listening, she's very, very good at listening, and that's really worked well for me. Is I know she's listening. I trust her. We have an open relationship. I feel like I can be honest with her. I feel that the instant connection, I knew within 10 minutes of speaking to her that this was going to work, and that for me was knowing almost like success criteria that this. I could open up to her and talk to her, and I felt comfortable. She made that setting, that environment very comfortable for me to open up. I very much value the practical tips that she gives me and the advice and her opinions. And she understands me, and she goes at my pace. So there was a bit of discussion just a minute ago about the sort of not putting too much pressure on people kind of thing. My initial thoughts about the scheme was thinking, oh, I'm going to have homework to do and that kind of thing. She understands me. I mean, from my side, I try to prep for the sessions. I don't just rock up and try and wing it. I do sort of make notes between our sessions of things that I want to bring to discuss with her. I could go and, as I say, contact her, but I tend to sort of raise things with her. Effectively look at, how do you think I handled this? Do you think you would have done something differently, or I should have done? How could I do something differently, and that kind of thing. I mean, I hope others are as lucky to have a good mentor. One final comment I just make is that time is such a valuable commodity, and I think fair play to Lisa and all the other mentors on this scheme to give up their time. I feel an overwhelming sense of gratitude that someone is there, and as she said, that it's time for someone else. I mean, that's quite a thing to give, and a massive thank you to Lisa and all the other mentors for giving up their time to support us.
Yeah, well said, Hayley. I'm sure one of the mentors will definitely mention this, though. It isn't all a one-way street, and there are benefits to being a mentor. Anything to add to that, Lisa?
Exactly what you said, Kevin. It isn't all a one-way street. Every conversation I have with Hayley is a learning experience for me as well. So whilst it may seem like your mentor is listening and taking on board what you're saying, they're learning too, because every one of us is different. We're not all the same. How dull a world would it be if we were all the same? But the other thing is for me, it's important to recognize Hayley talked about difficulties at the beginning. Sometimes you go into a mentor-mentee conversation, you get that first introduction, that first conversation just doesn't feel right. It's okay to say, I don't think this is going to work. It's absolutely fine to do that. Any mentor or mentee, will accept that, because it's got to work for both parties. And similarly, if a mentor says to you, I don't think it's going to work for me, it's not because that you as a person, it's just there just isn't something quite right, and it's better to be upfront about it, because ultimately the relationship will struggle, and you won't get the best of one another. And I mean that because it is a two-way relationship the whole way through. You won't get the best of one another through that process. So don't hesitate as a mentee to say, this isn't really working for me. Similarly, as your career develops or you change as a person, what you need from a mentor or the type of mentor you need might change. So I know me personally, I have multiple mentors that I go to for different reasons. That I've built up in terms of my mentor network over the years. So you might have that build up over time, and that's okay. There's no rule of one that has to exist. You can talk to different people for different reasons in the same way as we do at home. So, that would be the kind of things that I would say to kind of think about. And actually, Hayley mentioned about me giving up my time. I don't view it as giving up my time. I view it as I'm learning and developing myself further in having that conversation. I don't think about it as time, because it's time invested in myself, but also in absolutely in Hayley. So I love every conversation in that respect. So absolutely, just view it. Don't think of it as being selfish. You're not, as a mentee. You're helping us learn as mentors too, all along the way.
Excellent. Thanks, Lisa. I'm going to go a little bit off piste and pick up on one of those things you mentioned there, which you both had an experience of it not working out first time. And I think it's absolutely crucial that people understand that, that can happen and it's nobody else's fault. Sometimes there isn't that personal spark, or people's circumstances change. We've had people who have changed jobs and their diaries have become so busy that they can't carry on with the commitment. And taking Hayley's advice, one thing I'd say is get in touch with us as soon as that happens, as quickly as possible. The earlier we know about any issues, the earlier we can rectify them. So I've just put my email address in the chat. So if anybody does at any point have any of those issues, you'd already have it all anyway now, reach out to us straight away. But I think also it'd be good to bring Rory in here just to add some value there in terms of how within the platform, what is the official advice for terminating a relationship either on time or early, and how do you do that through the platform, Rory?
Yeah, that's another great question. I mean, absolutely, we understand completely that as in life, sometimes mentoring relationships don't always pan out as we would expect, and that's okay from both the parties, both mentees and mentors. And you shouldn't feel bad. Obviously, ending it does feel a bit abrupt, but obviously you'll have the opportunity through the platform to chat about it with the other party, and obviously you can always reach out to myself or Kevin. But if you want to do it through the platform, just going into my mentorships page and being able to just type on the 3 letters and send end mentorship, and you can give some reasons behind this, and obviously not all of them have to be negative. You just say it could be something about the different personalities, different time commitments. You can basically give some feedback on whether you had a positive, neutral, or negative experience with that mentoring relationship. And then you can also give some reasons behind it. I think going on from that the platform does allow you to find, as Lisa said very well, to find multiple relationships, multiple mentors for different topics, and that's how we sort of set it up. And what I'm always cognizant of seeing these mentorship deployments is that often finding a mentor, you often find the best mentors in not necessarily the place that you're looking for. So it might not always be the top MD that you want to go to and find and want them to be your mentor. It might be someone in a completely different role but has similar sort of capabilities and skills. And that's why we've sort of set up the platform is, yes, you can directly request mentors, but also open request mentors. And so the mentors on the network will be able to respond to those requests. And what's nice about that is they definitely do have the time. They've shown an interest because they've responded to your request. They've said, I want to help you and I can help you for these very, very different reasons. So yes, finding these mentoring relationships has to be organic, but it is about finding the right one for you.
Yeah, thanks, Rory. So going back to the question in hand, Aaliah and Bev, was there anything different about the way that you guys managed your relationship over the last year?
Yeah, things have changed. As I mentioned before, we went into lockdown soon after Bev and I first met. And so, like many others, I was trying to keep my head above water and keep going. And the projects I was working on at the time were cancelled. And then I got a major new project last year, feasibility study, engaging nearly 100 stakeholders and managing a team that I've never met. So what Bev is really good at is guiding me through all of that in terms of the stakeholder management and leadership skills that I needed. When I meet Bev, I've always got an agenda. I always know what I want to talk about before we meet. Otherwise, it's not a good use of our time. And I try and have talking points ready in advance. I find that mentoring has made me more accountable. I don't want to be wasting Bev's time or my own. And what we found has worked for us is having the sessions scheduled in our diaries. It helps me to focus and to prep for the meetings. And it also means on a personal level, I'm getting better at scheduling time for myself, which is something that I've not really ever been that good at. Bev and I have both been flexible on our time. We do have catch-ups every 2 weeks, and they're scheduled in for the next 6 months. And that enables, certainly on my part, to keep focus. But we also meet ad hoc. I've had times when I've texted or called Bev and said, I need some help, I need some advice. can I have a chat today? And she's been right on it and helped me with that. What I found, as I've got to know Bev more, and I really trust her. I value her integrity, her confidentiality, and it really enables open discussions between the two of us. It helps that she doesn't work in the same company as me, because I can speak openly. And what she's really good at as well is she asks me probing questions that help me to look inside myself for the answers. I think this has helped keep our relationship strong and healthy, but it also helps that Bev does a similar role to me, so she can actually practically help me. So she's helped me review documents and so on when I need it. So Bev is a fantastic match for me, and she's actually where I want to be, where I aspire to be in a few years from now. So I really just want to say thank you, Bev, for everything, and thank you for all your support in putting all of this together.
Thank you, Aaliah. I think for me, the reason I wanted to join the programme was because I'd spent 23 years at American Express and had been a leader there in developing people. And I left there in the summer of 2018 and went out contracting. And obviously contracting, you're not doing development of staff. The programme started a year later, or probably about 6 months to a year later, and I felt it was a good opportunity not only to give back, because as Lisa says, it's not about us just giving. It's the ability for me also to learn, because I have to think. Quite often you go through work and you do things because you do it naturally, but you don't think why you do them. And having that ability to work with someone and someone asking the questions, it makes you sit back and reflect. It reinforces some of those things that you have done, but you haven't known why you've done them. So I get a huge amount out of the relationship with Aaliah. And I remember when we started talking about doing this session, one of the areas we were talking about was, okay, so how do you close this after a year? And every one of us said, what do you mean close? We don't want to close this because we've had over a year in a relationship, and the relationship has got to the stage where it's a close friendship. It is built on trust. It is built on integrity. And, you know, speaking to someone every 2 weeks, especially with the lockdown, you've got an avenue to talk. So I get a huge amount out of it as well, and I have to thank Aaliah for that. I've thoroughly enjoyed it. And I think because Aaliah's always prepared, I never feel any of my time is wasted. So thank you, and thank you, Kevin, for setting all of this up.
Excellent, thanks, Bev. And then same question, Patricia, Carol, how have you guys managed to keep the relationship going over these last 12 months plus?
From my point of view, we've been paired up for well over a year now, and you know, this year it's been sort of much more ad hoc. But what I will pick up on is what everyone else is saying, is that we have developed a friendship over this period as well. And what if I go back to the very beginning when we first met, I mean, when I looked at what Patricia was asking for and looking for from a mentor, I was thinking, goodness me, I think actually she could mentor me. Some of the things that she was already able to do, I was thinking, she doesn't need me, for sure she doesn't. But I think what was really great about that is that we have taken each other both on a journey. And that has been probably the most rewarding thing. You know, yes, it's exploring all the time, but having someone to go through that journey with, and you know, you mentioned at the top the organisation, or the community that I founded, Women in Tech Not Just Code. It was Patricia who helped me drive that in the background and given me sort of the confidence to do other things that I had never done myself through that relationship with her. And I always look forward to our chats. I never knew what was going to come out of them. It would always take me in a different direction from what I thought we would initially do. And I think the important thing, again, it's been mentioned before, I look at her as somebody I can fall back on and bounce some ideas off as well. And it's been brilliant. I love it. I can let Patricia say the rest of it now.
So how I prepared for my sessions, I didn't have like a long list of questions that I wanted to ask Carol. I came up with a situation, a problem, and it was normally something that had happened in work. So I had a lot of and uncertainty around being a new people manager. So I almost looked to Carol to get kind of validation that I was doing the right thing. So I would literally come with a problem I'd had either that week, and I think this is the thing that I needed the most help with, because I was so conscious about what I thought I didn't know. And through this, Carol just asking me questions and really getting me to really reflect. So it felt like it was more coaching than mentoring. She really got me to actually sort of dig within and actually reveal the answers that I had already knew. So, and I really appreciated the fact that it wasn't just a training session where do this, do this, do this, do this, do this. It really was about her allowing me to tap into my own inner pool of knowledge. And what I really appreciated is the way our relationship developed and flourished. I had the opportunity to get involved with Women in Tech, Not Just Code. And even through that, I sort of made new relationships and met people that I'd worked with many years ago. So it was such an exciting place to be in. And, I'm blessed beyond blessed that I'm still involved in that, and that Karen and I are firm friends.
Excellent. Thanks, Patricia. We've just got one question in the Q&A, which, thanks, Jenny. I couldn't have asked a better question if I'd asked it myself, because it really helps me out with something I wanted to talk about. So, our main aim with the program is to help as many people as possible. And to be honest, our main growth strategy to do that is leveraging the networks of you guys. So, the program is completely free to access by any individual and employer. So, in terms of getting your team involved, come and talk to me. More than happy to get as many of your women in tech from your own organizational networks involved. Drop me an email. We can set up a call to discuss, how we go about communicating that internally across your business to educate people around the value of being a mentor and being a mentee. And yeah, we can put a plan in place that will work for your organization. Part of the program is it's completely flexible. There's no fixed start dates. There's no mandated ways you have to consume any of the content, any of the meetups and things that we do. So yeah, let's just have a chat about, that this goes for everyone. Let's have a chat about how we can get more of your network and your teams involved. Unless any other questions, we're going to flip out of the presentation into the networking room. For those that haven't had a chance to familiarize themselves with Remo before, it's a really great tool. So thanks again, Lisa, for allowing us to use it. The beauty of it is the flexibility of it. So at any point you guys are in a breakout room, you can see the people that you're talking to on your table. If at any point you want to go and explore the other conversations that are taking place, simply double click on one of the chairs and you'll scoot off to that table and be able to talk to those people. It's completely flexible. What we have done is we set up 20 tables to start with themes. So there's a table for each of our speakers. So I'm on the mentoring program table, Rory's on the MentorXchange table, and then the ladies are on the tables that have got their names on it. And then if you go to floor 2, we've got 12 tables that are split up by region. So we've got tables for the North, the Midlands, and the South. So that might be a good place to start, to go to one of those tables and talk to some people that are from your location. Just got one other question that's come through. So yeah, so Michelle, absolutely. So the open requests, those are the mentees that maybe haven't had the confidence or maybe don't know how to go about approaching a mentor or picking one of the 200 mentors that we've got available. So they put out an open request basically saying what skills they want support with and explaining why they want that support. And if you think you're a good fit for that individual, absolutely reach out to them. They will then get the opportunity to review that request and say whether they agree that you're a good match or not, and you can start a dialogue and decide to take that further forward if you like to. So yeah, absolutely, the answer to that question is yes. So yeah, unless any other questions, I'm going to start the presentation. Thanks very much, guys, for all your time, and hopefully, in the networking session, you get to meet some interesting people and build some relationships. Cheers, guys.
Thank you.